I wonder if this is any good. What do you think, bud?
Hey dog lover, welcome to Wagging Tails Unleashed, where we bring you all things man's best friend. Well, I'm James and this is my co-host Zion, and we're so glad that you're here. If you're not subscribed and you end up liking this video, please consider subscribing. So today we're going to talk about commercial dog food. I know in our modern world we all like convenience, and not everyone can do a Whole Foods raw diet for their dog. So I'm going to give you, in my opinion, the best options for commercial dog food. From kibble to wet food to some of these companies that make fresh food customized for your dog. We're going to discuss it. So let's get right into it, shall we, bud? All right, so this is a tricky topic when you address diet, whether it's dog food, whether it's human food. There's a lot of different opinions, and we're all just trying to do the best job that we can. Now, for my wife and I, we've been doing a more Whole Foods raw diet with our dogs for a few years. It takes some adjusting, it takes some learning and some research, but I understand in this modern world, a lot of us are busy. Some people are just too nervous to go out on their own and design their own dog food, and they just want someone that they could trust to say, hey, this is healthy for their dog. Or maybe because of your budget, you do half raw food and half kibble. Basically, I just want to give you, in my opinion, some of the best conventional dog foods that I've seen out there. I've looked at dozens of different dog foods and checked through the ingredients, the guaranteed analysis for, the protein, fat ratio and all that. And so these are, in my opinion, the best options that I've seen. So first we're gonna go over 5 of the best kibble options that I found in no particular order, except for the first one. In my opinion, looking at the ingredients, this one I think is the best one. So the first one we're gonna look at is the brand Orijen, and we're gonna be discussing their original recipe. Now, looking at their ingredients, these were the best ingredients that I could find in a dry food. Their first 5 ingredients are just different meats. I'll throw up on the screen the ingredient list. And you don't see any byproducts, you don't see any meal. Not that meal is necessarily bad, we'll discuss that in a second, but just stuff like chicken and beef and fish. If you look at the guaranteed analysis, which breaks down the percentage of protein, fat, and all these other things, it has a good profile. It's high in protein. I didn't see any red flag ingredients in these. They have a lot of different formulas to choose from, and the ones that I've mainly looked at are the grain-free ones. Our dogs don't seem to like grains. It kind of messes with their stool and their digestive system, so we stick to grain-free. If your dog is fine with grains, then other options are there for you. For us, we just think that grains really don't need to be in a dog's diet. As far as price, okay, it's one of the more pricier kibbles. I mean, you get what you pay for. At the time of making this video, a 23.5 pound bag is $105, I believe. Now I know that sounds like a lot, and it might be more than what you're paying now, but I broke down the cost per day and how many days a bag is going to last you. And when you see what it is per day, it's really not that bad. So I looked at the recommended servings they have all different weights in dogs. We looked at, for this one, a 44-pound dog. And they break down the recommendation based on, is your dog less active or more active? So for a less active dog, this bag will last you 31 days. And the price breakdown is about $3.38 a day. So for a 44-pound dog, under $4 a day, you get, in my opinion, one of the best kibbles out there. That's less than one of your fancy Starbucks lattes. Now, for a more active dog, it'll last you almost 21 days, and the cost would be $5.88 per day. So of course, this is gonna be more expensive than one of your cheap kibbles, but you have the sound of mind knowing that you're getting some of the best ingredients in a kibble dog food for your best friend. And just to recap, they have grain-free options, no wheat, no corn, no GMO stuff. So this overall, in my opinion, is a really good pick for kibble. If you're getting value from this content, please consider liking, subscribing, and hitting that notification bell so that you can be notified when we put out new videos. Now let's get back to the list. Number 2 on our list is Jinx. Now looking at the ingredients are pretty solid. No red flags. The number one ingredient we looked at the chicken is organic chicken. The second ingredient is chicken meal. Now, just to quickly break down what meal means, because it can be confusing, the difference between meal or byproducts. If something says chicken meal or beef meal, it means that it's going to have beef, some organs, and some bones. And they basically just grind them all up, turn them into a powder, and then boom, there you have your meal. There's a lot of debate as to whether this is good or bad. The pro is they're very high in protein because it's a high concentrate of protein. The con is it has to be processed using very high heat, and there's debate as to the quality of this protein. Yes, it's high in protein, but after it goes through this high heat process, does it really retain much of its nutrients? So all of these different meals aren't necessarily bad. They're just not as quality, in my opinion, as just chicken or beef. Now looking at the Garantine analysis, the ratios are good, 27% protein. Again, we're looking at the no grain formula, but they have a lot of different ones to choose from. And for this one, a 23.5 pound bag is gonna run you about 47 bucks. So looking at their recommendation servings, they didn't give less active or more active, they just gave a general number. You're gonna get 18 days worth, and the cost per day is gonna run you $2.50. Number 3 on our list is Taste of the Wild. Looking at these ingredients, I'll pop them up. The ingredients look pretty good. I didn't see any red flags. The number one ingredient in this particular recipe that we looked at was water buffalo. The second one was lamb meal. The Garantine analysis looked good, good ratios, 32% protein. At the time of this recording, a 28 pound bag is gonna run you $59. Now they have smaller bags that you could buy, but obviously the better deal is the bigger bags. And based on a 40 pound dog, you're gonna get 24 days worth at $2.45 per day. Number 4 is Open Farm. Again, good ingredients. The only con that I saw on there was sunflower oil. Now, seed oils, there's a lot of new research that just seed oils are not great for humans or dogs. It's not one of their top 5 ingredients, so it's kind of down a little bit in the ranking, but it does have a seed oil in it. So that's the one thing that I would say not ideal, but overall, good ingredients. The Garantine analysis is good at 30% for protein. Their first 2 ingredients are beef and whitefish meal. For Open Farm, their pound bag is gonna run you $1, so this is one of the more expensive ones. For their recommended servings, they break it down into less active and more active. So for a less active dog, you're gonna get 2 days worth, and the cost is gonna be cents. For your more active dogs, you're gonna get days worth at cents per day. And again, for the price of a cup of coffee, you could give your dog a good option for kibble. And number 5 on our list for kibble is Red Barn. Looking at the ingredients look good. The only con in some of the formulas, not all, but in some of them, they have sunflower oil. But overall, good ingredients. Their first 3 ingredients in the particular formula that I looked at was turkey, chicken, and then chicken meal. Garantine analysis looked good at 28% protein, and a 22 pound bag is gonna run you 69 bucks. Now for a 40 pound dog, you're gonna get 23 and a half days worth at $2.94 a day. So there's my pick for the top 5 kibble. I'm gonna throw up on the screen a bunch of honorable mentions. There were a lot of them that I had on my list that were good. I just picked what I thought was the top 5, but you can just take a look at a lot of these other ones, look through ingredients, look through the price, and make your own decision. Now, in case some of you are wondering, and I'm sure someone's gonna bring this up, what about Hill Science Diet? Isn't that the number 1 vet recommended dog food? This gets into some of the dirty politics of food, whether it's dog food or human food. The reason I didn't put Hill Science on the list, the ingredients weren't bad, but the main reason I didn't choose it is because their carb ratio was more than 50% carbs. Now, funny little story. Our dogs recently went to the vet for a checkup. The vet's gonna ask questions about diet and supplements, so my wife told them that we do a raw, basically a raw whole foods diet, sometimes cooked, sometimes raw. So he said to her, you wanna be careful because a lot of people who do these home remedies end up putting too many carbs in their food, and dogs really don't need many carbs at all, so you just wanna be careful with that. My wife reassured we do mostly meat. But the irony is, she said on their wall was a poster, Hill Science Diet, #1 vet recommended. So I don't want to sit here and claim that I know better than vets per se or for dog dietitians, but we all know that dogs are carnivores. So why is there more than 50% carbs in your dog food? All the ones I mentioned, the carb count was less than 50%. Hill Science was the only one that had it above. So sorry, didn't make my list. Now for wet food, which I think is actually a better option than kibble, I'm not going to go through each one, but all these brands that I just mentioned, they all have their wet food options. So that's something you look at. Now the wet food is going to be more expensive because it is better quality. You know, when food has to be dried for kibble, you know, it's cheaper. When food is more fresh, it's going to cost more. So to feed your dog the recommended amount of these companies, it's going to be a lot more expensive than the kibble. So you could always just, you know, use these wet foods as a topper, or maybe like half your food is wet food and half is kibble. You could be creative, but you have options, which is good. So the last category I want to discuss are some of these companies where they have these customized plans and their food is actually fresh. So I'm going to give you my top 2 in this category, and the first one is Ollie. Now looking at the ingredients, they had good ingredients, and they give you 3 different options. You could do the most expensive one is just it's all fresh food. The second option is half fresh food and half of their dry baked food, and then the third option would be just a half portion of their fresh food. So based on your budget, you could decide through those 3 different options. So what's cool about these is you punch in all different stats. It's going to ask you the age of your dog, the sex of your dog, has it been neutered or not. If it's a male, it's going to ask you its weight. It's going to ask you how active it is. It's going to ask you the breed. So you punch in all this information. It'll also ask you if your dog has any health issues or sensitivities. So you can mark that all off. And then it gives you their options that are most suitable for your dog. So for these companies, when you order, it's going to be 2 weeks worth because they're fresh food and it has an expiration date. They give you an initial discount for first-time purchasers. I'm not going to include that price. I'm just going to give you the standard normal price. So for 2 weeks, it's going to be $105. Okay, so it's not cheap. And this is for the most expensive option, which is fully fresh. And based on a 40-pound dog, you're going to get 2 meals a day, and it's going to run you $7.55 per meal. And for the half fresh option, which is the cheapest one, it's going to run you $74 and $5.29 per day. And the second one on this list is Spot and Tango. Now looking at their ingredients, a good ingredient list. The only con is safflower oil. These seed oils just make their way into many foods. It's hard to get away from. Now, when it comes to grain-free, it might be me. I couldn't find a grain-free option. I mean, one of them said grain-free, but it had millet in it, which is a grain, so I'm not sure. But they do have good options, and again, you can punch in all your dog's information and you can just check off whether he has different sensitivities, diarrhea, any kind of issue, and then they customize a meal for you. Now they give you 2 options for their fresh food. Either get a full portion, or they call it like a half portion or a topper, which a topper would be you just kind of like add some of this meal to your other dog food. Now based on a 40-pound dog, the fresh option is going to run you $9 a day, and the topper, the half portion, is going to run you about $5 a day. Now they do have another option that they call unkibble. So it's not kibble, but it still is dry food. I think it's like air dried. And in that category, they give you, I think, 3 or 4 options. So that's another direction you could go. But with those, the only grain-free option I saw was the salmon and the cod. So just something to keep in mind. So there you go. There's my list of commercial dog foods that I think are worth looking into. And the good thing about these is obviously the convenience. And even for those who, do a whole foods raw diet with their dogs, we all get really busy. Maybe you have a really busy week and maybe you don't have time to do the raw whole foods. So it's not a bad idea to have as a backup a bag of one of these better kibbles. I hope you appreciate this list. I actually took a lot of time and research and looking at these dog foods. I've been into health and fitness for over 30 years, and obviously with our dogs, we want them to be as healthy as possible. So I'm passionate about taking care of our dogs and sharing with you guys so that you can make the best options for your dog so they can live a good, fulfilled, healthy life. And if you have found a dog food that you think is a really good option that I didn't mention, leave it in the comment section below. Okay, so there you have it. We hope that this video was helpful for you so you can make the best decision for your furry friend and his health. Remember, in the description below, we have all of Zion and Obi's favorites. So from Zion and myself, we wish all of you a perfect day.